But you might want to put your sandwiches down for this next interview. Have you ever wondered who cleans up the murder scenes around this city when there's blood from wall to wall and other unspeakable things all over the floor and down the hallway and out the garden path? I can tell you it's not the police, Dicko, who clean up here, and I actually thought it probably was. Who cleans up? This next lady we're about to speak to cleans up. I'm talking of Iordanidis. She's a forensic cleaner and she runs a company called All Gone Extreme Clean. Lee, good afternoon.
Hi there, how are you both?
Well, for a start off, we're a little disappointed because we thought you'd be turning up in like a Ghostbusters outfit. Instead, you look like a beautiful woman, you smell wonderful, you got beautiful finger polish on, and, you know, you just look like a lovely suburban woman. You don't look like a murder cleaner.
But what is a crime scene cleaner supposed to look like?
I've never met one before.
Well, you have now.
You also had a go at me for mentioning Mr. and Mrs. Murder, didn't you?
I did.
Does that get your goat?
It does get my goat, like sunshine cleaning.
Why?
Because they're showing everybody that you can just walk into any scene and you can't. It's a biohazard to walk in there, so you can get illnesses. You can get very sick from being in that scene, and also if it's a murder, you can destroy any evidence that the police need to look after. So you just can't walk in with your mask around your neck and look fabulous.
So have you rung up Channel 10 and alerted them to the error of their inaccurate ways?
Of course I did. I was terrible. I gave them a tongue lashing for about an hour saying, that's not how you do it and you're giving people the wrong idea. So I think Channel 10 don't like
You'll
me
be
very
on the
much.
next series, you will.
Oh, God, no.
As a
I couldn't do
cameo.
it. No, thank you. No,
You could at least be the woman they go to for advice to check they're getting things right. Did they come back to you and say, how about this, how about that?
No, they didn't. I think they were scared of me.
The fools!
Now, can you tell us, looking at you, obviously you're not the average cleaning lady. Can you tell us some of the more, I guess, gory situations you've found yourself in?
I describe it as walking into hell and walking out of heaven, because you never know what you're going to find. Obviously, there's blood everywhere if it's been a murder, or if someone's died and been in there for 6 months, decomposition everywhere, maggots, flies, cockroaches, rats, everything that you want to find. I'm definitely not squeamish. I kill everything at home. Peter comes to me and goes, can you kill that bug? So, yeah. So we find all wonderful things, but it's a smell. It's not what you're seeing. It's blood and just it's the smell of it.
But Lee, that's not something I imagine you'd just be born to. It's something you must get used to over time. What happened the first time you went in and were confronted by gore? By blood and all that sort of filth?
The first crime scene that I went in to do was a friend's suicide. So for me, it was the mother had been told, the police don't clean it, you've got to sort it out. And he hung himself and had decomposed in a wardrobe, so the smell was terrible. And I just went in and put on suits, and I'm sure I didn't do everything correctly like I do now, but we just went in and did it. And, I walked out and I thought, well, if I can do a friend, I can do it for anyone. And for me, it's about the family. It's not what I'm seeing in there. I come home and put my music on and have a good life, where these people have to keep going on with the suffering of either not seeing their family and letting them die and decompose by themselves, or their family has committed suicide. They've got a lot more things to worry about than me seeing just that gore.
You mentioned the smell before. Can you tell, what does death smell like?
After all these years, I still can't tell you. The worst smell that you can imagine and multiply it by 1,000,000. It's an entity unto its own. When you walk in, it hits you like...
Do you recognise it?
Oh,
is,
God,
is,
yeah.
there, is there a distinctive smell of death?
There is a distinctive smell. If someone's died in your apartment block, you know the smell. If someone has died somewhere, you know the smell.
And does the smell of death come on straight away? So someone dies and there's a smell of death, or does it take, those few days, few hours for decomposition?
You've got to start decomposing,
right.
And then everything comes away and skin starts to slip and all those wonderful things, and you find scalps all the time, and so it's all the good things.
Now, I heard you say earlier you actually quite like the smell of blood.
I do.
Is it? I mean,
it's a tinny smell.
Yeah, because it tastes tinny.
It's metally smell. I like the smell of blood. My poor husband, God bless him. He's a brave man. But yeah, I do like the smell of blood. I hate the smell of decomp. Because it's a smell that you don't get rid of. But once you clean up the blood, the smell's gone, and it's fine. But the decomp you really have to work on.
So how do you get the smell of decomposition out of someone's home?
You have to, depending on if they've died in the chair, you have to get rid of the chair, you have to rip up the carpets, you have to rip up the floorboards sometimes if they've gone through the floorboards, have to dig out the cement underneath.
That, you're kidding?
No.
So the smell of
It goes
decomposition can get into a cement floor?
Into a cement floor. We have to get rid of anything that is material. It goes through everything. It doesn't, if someone dies in a room, in a bedroom, it will be through the house. It's not just limited to that area. It's not that kind. So we have to get rid of all the curtains everywhere. We have to shampoo carpets everywhere else, but mainly it's ripping everything up. I love it. I've got muscly arms. I'll never have tuck shop lady arms.
Let me cart you beyond our temporal existence and to the afterlife. Do you ever get the feeling that there are some strange energies in some of these murder scenes, or where people have died a lonely, sad existence? Do you get the feeling that there's some other energy there?
I do. Again, my husband will say that I'm crazy, but I feel that sometimes it's a sad feeling. It's not like there's something evil and they're going to walk up behind you and grab you. It's just a sadness in the house. So I don't think that ghosts are going to jump out on me or anything like that, but I do believe that there is an energy, a sadness, especially if they've died by themselves, an older person, and, the family hasn't thought to contact them. You can tell that they've lived a sad life, and the house feels sad, like it's closed up. So, yeah, I don't think a ghost is going to come and get me.
No.
Talking of that sadness, though, do you take that home? It must be difficult at the end of the day to peel off your work clothes and go home and talk about happy things.
I've got a really good husband who is the total opposite of me, and he knows what crime scene I've been on by what music I've put on.
Right.
What do you mean?
Because if it's been not a really bad day and I haven't had to deal with the families crying, and the families are always upset, but it depends on how much contact I've had with the family. Bon Jovi will be on, or if I've had a bad day, it's always John Mellencamp. I love my Mellencamp, and I play him a lot. So
John Mellencamp gets you over the really hard days?
Yeah, he does. He does for many years. Or I come home if we've been in a hoarder's house. Peter knows I'm tearing the bedrooms apart and throwing things out, so he knows where I've been. I don't have to tell him.
So you have to crawl in and out of those hoarder houses, do you?
I've had one man chase me because I took a candy wrapper and I had to jump over boxes and everything.
That's good stuff, that candy wrapper.
And it's like, I dropped it on the way and he's like, I want it back. And I just picked up whatever was there because I thought, oh, well, what do I do? Just give him anything. There's so much crap in here, so he won't know.
So tell me about the actual decontamination once. We'll get into the actual job in a minute, but I'm just wondering, you go home to your husband, you're reeking of death and decomp, as you call it. So what's the process of scrubbing down and becoming this beautiful, wonderfully scented suburban lovely that you are now?
I strip off in the garage.
Right.
So the first layer of suit goes off. So we have a disposable suit. Gloves go into a bag. We take it upstairs. I run up with a dressing gown on, go into the shower, just have a normal shower. I've got a special disinfectant that I use.
Wash your hair?
Wash my hair about 3 times because it always feels terrible because things tend to crawl through it. Maggots tend to be in your hair.
No, you've had maggots in your hair.
Or cockies. Cockroaches tend to get into your hair. So, like I said, it doesn't faze me. I go home and I just shower, and I will still think that I smell because it's in my nose. But Peter will say, no, you're fine. And I've got lots of perfume. So.
And then what do you do with the outfits you've been wearing? Some are thrown out, but
some are thrown out, and the others go through I've got a separate washing machine, and all my King G's and socks and underwear and whatever goes into that machine with disinfectant, and then it's a normal day. I just do the washing and
in a separate washing machine.
In a separate washing machine. Yes, in a separate washing.
I don't think if I was married to a crime scene killer, I would like my smalls going through the wash with your crime scene clothes.
No. Peter wears a suit every day, so he really needs his shirts and everything separate.
Margaret's called in. G'day, Margaret.
Yes, hi. How are you, Dicko?
Good. You've got a question for Lee?
I have, Lee. Not a job I'd like, but I'm fascinated.
We all are.
But I'm just thinking, if you have a particularly gruelling case, do you have time off, or is it just, it's a 7-day, 5-day on-call? If it's particularly gruelling, do you have time off?
I don't usually have time off. It just depends. There are certain seasons where the jobs come every day. So if it's been Valentine's Day, we'll have lots of suicides. Or if it's been Melbourne Cup, there'll be lots of suicides for people who didn't win. And then there'll be other times during the year that we have a really quiet period. But, anytime there's a holiday like Christmas or things like that, there are lots more deaths.
Okay, so you're on call.
Yeah, so we're on call.
So you have a busy period then?
Yeah. Definitely.
And how does it work? Do you, because I know the police don't call you. Who calls you?
The families call.
The families call. Margaret, thanks for your call there.
Thank you.
Thanks. And so the families, the police have left, I guess. The crime scene's over. They've done their investigating, and then the families are left with the mess. They call you?
Definitely. They call me, and I think that works out to be the hardest call you ever have to make. Families, everyone is brought up to know that we're going to die, and one day we're going to need a funeral home, and we all sort of accept that. We don't want our families to die, but we accept that that's the norm. But to think that you have to then go through the problem of ringing the funeral home and getting the body, and then you have to ring someone like me to clean it up. It's not something that goes through people's minds.
Lee, have you ever been in a murder scene to clean it up when you've found evidence that hasn't been picked up by the investigators?
Yeah, we did one last week that we found they said it was a natural death, so we treated it as that, and then we found at the bottom of the stairs a photo frame that was smashed. And I thought, why didn't they take that? Because if it's been a natural death, they'd need to just rule that out. And then I turned it over and there was blood all over the back of it. So we had to stop and call the detectives and
bring them back.
So
they put the tape up again and cleared you out?
No, we were allowed to stay because they had taken everything else, but they had left this photo frame. They hadn't bothered to look at the back of it, and there was blood on the back of it.
Look, we should share the love here. People want to speak to you. John's on the line. G'day, John.
G'day, guys. How you going?
Good. You got a question for Lee?
Yeah, just interested in about getting employed in this sort of industry.
So how do you get into the industry, I guess, is your question.
Yes, basically, yeah.
John, before we answer that, why would you want to?
Well, there's been a couple of occasions where, like suicide, friends, and that sort of thing. I found one of my mates, and I helped the family out cleaning and that sort of thing, and we all did it ourselves.
Wow.
So I thought, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah. And good on you, John.
I'm not trying to be morbid or anything.
Yeah,
no, that's okay. I was just curious.
Good on you for doing that for the family. That's wonderful.
Yeah, but I was just interested about the employment and how do you go about it and that sort of thing.
I'm sure that I can leave my number for Dicko and everything, but you can get into it. If you contact me, we can have a talk about it. And, if you've done it before, I'm sure you could do it again. And, doing it for family and friends is pretty hard. So if you've done that, I think you could stomach it.
Hey, John, I tell you what, we will get Lee's phone number and we'll try and get you guys in contact and you can have a bit of a chat. Thanks for the call there, John.
Cool. All right, thanks, guys.
Good
Appreciate
it. I know, Lee, you mentioned before in the ad break there's actually only 4 forensic cleaners in Australia. So it's not like there is an industry, really.
No, there's not really. We're not recognised. There's no set pays that we're supposed to pay people. So we have to, a normal cleaner gets $18 and I think it's 64 cents an hour. And I went, really? I couldn't ask anyone to get up and do that. So, we pay our staff good money to go into.
Well, I was going to say, how do you decide what the going rate is for going in and doing something which, let's face it, 95% of the population would just not want to do?
Well, I talk to the staff and I pay them a really good rate, that more money than they would get as a removalist, more money than they would get as, working in a shop anywhere. And, we just work it out. And, the more they do and the better they get, the more money they get for it.
Do you find some of them get a little bit queasy on their first trips?
I
have to have certain breaks to upchuck.
I always say to them, if you're going to vomit, get outside and do it because we don't want to have to clean up anything else. And if you miss and you do it inside, you have to clean up your own. But, I say to them, if something is too much, walk out. I don't say to them, you have to be on the job for 12 hours. If you need to go outside every half an hour because you just need to clear your head, go outside. I do it. I go outside and take a break and go, wow, I've got that DVD in my house. There's always something in someone's house that you recognise as you've got, and that's your trigger point.
Mm-hmm.
So, some days you can walk in and it doesn't faze you, and then other days you'll see something else and you'll go, and it'll set you off. So you have your up and down days with it.
Lee, have you always been obsessed with this sort of world? I mean, it takes a certain person to be able to stomach it, but have you always been fascinated by crime and murder and that sort of thing?
Since I was very little, and my family actually warned my husband prior that, she doesn't have any romance books. It's all crime and murders and things like that. And he goes, no, not Lee. And I went, there's my library. So, and that's what he buys me for presents.
Why do you think that is, Lee?
Probably because my mother was a divine, so Tilly Divine is one of them. I don't know. To me, it's not going into the crime scene. To me, I want the final result. I want to see that it's clean and safe for the families to go back into. They're more important to me than, what I see there. I want them to be safe to go back in and feel like it's their home again and try and make it a bit easier for them. But, yeah, I've always been, like I said, poor hubby.
Yeah.
He's a brave man. If he goes missing...
Speaking of poor hubby, do you clean your own house, Lee?
I do. I'm fanatical.
You are?
Yes. The cleaner usually needs a cleaner because they don't like to do it, but I find that I come home and I want everything.
Have you got an ultraviolet light that they use in CSI?
I have.
Yes?
I have.
So the old white glove test is no good for you?
No,
you go
good
over
for
it
me.
with a black light?
I go over it with a black light. No, not so much at home, but, I'm lucky Peter, is very tidy as well, but my office looks like a brothel and I've got too many shoes. I've got more shoes than a woman should need, and that's one whole room. So, yeah, my house is very particular.
You're a bit of an Imelda Marcus, are you?
I am. But I love my shoes.
So you like murder and shoes?
Murder and shoes and handbags.
Quite a woman.
And what was the third thing?
Handbags.
Handbags, of course.
Yes,
Who doesn't like a handbag? So Patricia Cornwall, would you be quite into her books?
Yes.
Yes, me too. She writes great murder mysteries from the crime scenes.
So did you work yesterday? Are you working tomorrow?
We actually just got back from Singapore, so I had yesterday off to do all the washing. Because we don't get much time off. So Peter and I coordinated to go away for Valentine's Day and went to Singapore and then came home and cleaned up all day yesterday and then back to work tomorrow.
Do you know what you've got to do tomorrow?
I do. A suicide.
Oh, dear. Are they the worst?
I think the suicides are very hard, and that other boy, John, for him to go in and do his family and friends, I have a lot of respect for him for doing that. I mean, that makes it so much easier for them. But I think older people who die in the house by themselves get me.
Yeah.
Because I was very much with my grandmother, and she lived with us until she got very sick with dementia, and, so we nursed her all the way through. And I think any older person that dies by themselves, I think that's the hardest for me. Really
hard one. We did have a call from Joe, he just can't hang on, that says, how much does an average job cost? So if we had to call you in, have you got any idea? Does it vary, I guess, into what sort of scene you're walking into?
It varies into what scene. We're probably anything from 3.5 up.
1,000? Yeah. Yeah. So it's not
okay. Lee, Iordanidis, absolutely fascinating stuff. Thank you for being with us today. I don't think we've had a more exciting interview, actually.
If anyone's turned the radio off while you've been on, I'll be extraordinarily surprised.